And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Key, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases, whether they're DC, Marvel, or indie. They come out every Wednesday, and we're here on a Thursday, every Thursday, at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, to talk about all the books that we could read in 24 hours. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and if you're watching us live on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, then you can see who our guest is. But if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, that's A-OK as well. Cool. Thank you for digesting us however you're digesting us. You just can't see who our guest is, and he's never been on the show before. It's his first time,
Nope.
so, you might not even recognize his voice unless you follow Jecky's Comics on TikTok and Instagram. We got Jecky. What's up, Jecky?
What's going on, man? How's it going?
It's going good. How was that intro? You like that one?
Very good. That was
Okay.
solid.
All right.
Solid.
Jecky, you are new to this show, but you're a comic fan and you're a comic reader, and
Mhm.
I mean, you wouldn't be on the show if you didn't know a thing or two.
Right.
Who's your favorite, or I don't want to put you on the spot and be like, who's your favorite superhero, but do you have a
Right.
favorite superhero?
Yeah, Batman. I'm a Batman guy.
You're a big Batman guy. Okay.
I'm a big Batman guy.
Lucky for you, there will never be a shortage of Batman comics. There's
Right.
always like 3 every single week from DC Comics.
Right.
Are you a big DC fan?
Yeah, so right now I'm reading a lot more DC than Marvel. I'm also a big X-Men guy. I grew up on X-Men. But right now I'm definitely collecting a lot more DC than anything else.
That's fair. I mean, to sum me up, people who have listened to the show, who've watched this show. By the way, shout out to anyone who's watching and or listening. Let us know you're out there. Who's your favorite superhero? What comics are you guys reading? Let us know in the chat, no matter whether it's Twitch or YouTube. Twitch is our main chat, but wherever you guys are, let us know you're out there. Let us know. What was I saying? Longtime listeners might know like what my tastes are and how I sum it up, but essentially it's like X-Men's #1, followed very closely by DC. Like X-Men and DC are like my big, and then followed by Marvel. And I read everything, but like that's literally the hierarchy.
Yeah, that makes sense though. You can't go wrong with X-Men. So
if Marvel didn't have X-Men, I mean, they would still have good comics, of course. I love Marvel, just like I love DC. But there was that era, I don't know whether you're reading at that point, but at that era where Marvel was like, okay, well, we don't have like X-Men merchandise rights. We don't have their movie rights. So we're not going to make merchandise. We're not going to put them on anything. We're not going to do anything with the characters and slowly kill them off. Were you reading? Were you reading during that era?
No, I wasn't. I was reading like at that point I was reading a lot of crossovers. So at that point I read just the crossovers. I wasn't reading like single issues. I was reading like crossovers once they were like reprinted into like graphic novels.
Yeah. But it was a tough time to be an X-Men fan.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
It was tough.
That's what they did to the Fantastic Four. They killed the Fantastic Four intentionally. So
it's such a dick move.
For sure, because I used to get from my uncle the old Fantastic Four comic books, and it was kind of like in that era, it was kind of like they were always exploring space, so it was kind of like Star Trek meets superheroes, and that was such a great era. It felt like they plugged Guardians of the Galaxy to replace that because they didn't want to do any Fantastic Four promotions because they wanted Fox to lose the rights to it.
Yeah.
So they kind of just killed it, So
it was a tough so like I got a bunch of like comic book t-shirts, right? And so like right now I'm wearing a new one. It's Wolverine, right?
That's dope.
But like back in, let's just say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would get t-shirts with like the whole Marvel lineup, except they would purposely leave out any X-Men, any Fantastic Four. Like but it was wild because I have these things and it's like when you look back at these t-shirts, you're like, you can have a periodic table of Marvel, which was like one of the shirts that I have. It's like a periodic table with different characters, no Fantastic Four on it, no X-Men, but it's
Uh-huh.
the quote unquote periodic table of Marvel.
Of Marvel. It was so strategic. Like it was so grimy.
Yeah, they I have a shirt that I mean I don't fit into it anymore because it was like 10 years ago, but it was like the cover of Civil War where
Uh-huh.
with all the heroes, right?
Uh-huh.
But because of all the merchandising stuff, they covered up those heroes with heroes that weren't in Civil War because they were like dead or gone or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and even drawn by a different artist. They like put them on top. Like
Uh-huh.
Hawkeye was dead at the time, but they put him in
They
that
just put him
picture
in there.
over like Wolverine.
Uh-huh.
Ant-Man was in the picture and he's not in it.
Right, right.
I forget who else. Like Thor's dead, but they brought Thor in. They put
They
like
thought,
Thor over
yeah.
somebody, and it's like there's no Fantastic Four, no X-Men. Okay, I guess, but like it's just weird.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, they had this contract when Fox took over where they had, if they didn't make a movie within a certain amount of time, they would forfeit the rights. So they really wanted to kill it. So Fox had no, and Fox didn't do themselves any favors with those movies either.
Yeah,
But,
I have a soft spot. I have a soft spot for the X-Men movies, but like
Mhm.
only because it was the only X-Men content like
Yeah.
back
Well,
then.
I was mainly thinking about the Fantastic Four. The X-Men movies were groundbreaking at the time.
At
At
the
the
time.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time.
for
And
sure.
every time they would do just enough where I would be like, okay, I can see how it's gonna be better next time. And they
Yeah,
drop the
yeah,
ball next time. Like,
yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
gonna be better next time. And I
Yeah,
kept doing that.
that Phoenix one was a little rough.
Yeah. I just it was like,
They,
all right, fine.
they did
Um
Cyclops dirty on that one.
every single they always do Cyclops dirty in all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping the
Mm-hmm.
MCU does it a little bit different, but
Yeah.
we can hope,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um we are here to talk about all the comics that we read this week. Now,
Yep. Yep.
you read weekly comics. Like comics come out every week at comic shops and you read
Mm-hmm.
weekly comics. When did you start reading weekly comics? And I'm not judging.
Uh,
However,
s-
whenever you started.
Summer 2024 is when I really committed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a good use of your time?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's hurting my pockets, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out what I want to commit to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot out there. It's been fun to kind of shuffle through and figure out what you want to commit to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going back and reading old classics as well. So I'm kind of doing like doing it like the newer stuff and on the back end reading like a lot of classics that I might have missed or that I read back in the day that I want to revisit.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. It's definitely it takes money and it takes
Hmm.
time. And like
Yeah.
it used to be that I would read everything I could for this show and then the ones that I couldn't read from this week I would read over the weekend and I would like
Hmm.
binge read over the weekend.
Hmm.
It's so hard to keep up. So at the
Yeah.
very least, I do this show, I read all the new comics and I do what I can. And then I buy like trades and I buy my hardcovers for
Hmm.
my shelves.
Hmm.
But it's it can it it can be a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
you fall
For
down.
sure. For sure.
Um, for anyone out there who doesn't know, yeah, DC, Marvel, indie comics, they all come out on Wednesdays. Now, this month, January 2025, because this is January 9th, 2025 that we're doing this episode, there's 5 Wednesdays this month, which means all the comics are split 5 ways instead of 4 ways,
Hmm.
which means less comic per week. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
week, DC only had 5 comics, and Marvel had 14. And then there were indie comics, but
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
was
a little lighter,
a little
right?
lighter. DC
Hmm.
had more comics last week than Marvel did last week, though,
Mm.
which I thought was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
All the comics that you read this week, yeah, what did you read this week?
I read The Amazing Spider-Man 65, The Uncanny X-Men number 8, Magic number 1, Absolute Batman number 4, Wolverine number 5, and Aquaman number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the What If Galactus Transform Gambit
Okay,
number 1 of 1.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't like what ifs, but
Hmm.
the cover looks cool.
Right, right, right. This was decent. It's like you have to tell yourself it's like a one shot and just enjoy it for like a short story,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I got the impression it was a one shot at least.
It seems like, because last week they had What If Galactus transformed the Hulk.
Hulk. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Those all sounded good. I read a lot of those. I read Absolute Batman 4, Amazing
Hmm.
Spider-Man 65, Uncanny X-Men 8, Wolverine 5, Magic number 1. Did you read Magic
Hmm.
number 1?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Aquaman number 1. I got halfway. I just couldn't finish it by Showtime. Transformers number 16. I
Nice.
read Ultimate Black Panther 12, NYX 7, Batman and Robin 17, DC vs. Vampires World War V number 6, and then New Champions number 1.
Okay. Nice.
What was also on my list I didn't get to, I really wanted to read the What If Mickey and his friends became the Fantastic Four, because it
I saw
looked,
that. That looks interesting.
yeah. I also wanted to read the 3 Mark Miller Dark Horse Comics titles, because like I'm kind of a sucker for Mark Miller. Like, he's my guilty
Hmm.
pleasure.
Hmm.
He does things so cinematic, and
Hmm.
sometimes he's edgy just to be edgy, but like I think roughly like he's a good writer, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
But the 3 there that I didn't get to read, but I'm just gonna shout them out: Nemesis Rogues Gallery number 5,
Okay.
Jupiter's Legacy Finale number 3, and then Prodigy Slaves of Mars number 5.
Nice.
But I didn't get to it, so it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know who's out there watching, but I like shouting out the creepers. If they're, I see the number, and I'm like, okay, there are people out there that just are shy or something, but don't be shy.
Come
Let
on,
us
let us
know.
know.
Let us know you're out there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah. So like between the both of us, although it was a slower week for comics, between the both of us, we read a good amount of comics.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
out of the ones that you did read,
Hmm.
what's your pick of the week?
Ooh, I think it's gonna be Magic.
Really?
I think it'll be Magic number one. Yeah,
Let's talk about it, because I feel like Magic is having a resurgence right now,
for
and
sure.
and I think the reason Magic is having a resurgence is the character of Magic, like, got essentially like promoted to the X-Men, or like
Hmm.
10 years ago, 7 years ago, like when
Hmm.
Bendis was taking over, and like she got put on the is it called the it's called the Extinction Squad, or the Annihilation, I think it's Extinction Squad. They were called like the Extinction Team, and it was like just the heavy hitters of like Cyclops, Magic, Emma
Yeah,
Frost, and there was a heavy
yeah.
hitters. Um, but then she's been like in the comics, yeah, but like people didn't know her. But Marvel Rivals just came out,
Hmm.
and Marvel Rivals is turning people onto characters they didn't even know about,
No. Oh
and
yeah.
that's what I love about Marvel video games, like, or comic book video games, that sort of thing. Like, merchandise shows people what these characters are, and people think they're interesting. They look into them.
Yeah, yeah. I love that the X-Men team that she's on. Like I love how odd that team is,
Yeah,
and I think she fits that team very well, especially next to Psylocke and Cyclops.
yeah,
So that had me already really interested. And then when they announced she was doing her solo, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. I also like anything mystical, magical, like demons. It's right up my alley, and it
yeah.
gets a little bloody at the end, so that's right up my alley.
So it's funny that you say this, because like, uh, I don't like, for the most part, I don't
Uh,
like magic with my mutants. Not this
okay,
magic, but Magic, just magical
yeah,
things.
kind of like yeah.
Yeah, I don't, but I do like magic. Like, I
Uh-huh.
do like the character of magic. So I don't like when Captain Britain is like being a knight in shining armor sort of thing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like that. I don't like British. I don't like British swords and sorcery. That
The
type of.
magic.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, whatever. But I do like Ilyana Rasputin, and so
Hmm.
I did read this title, and I thought it was pretty straightforward. I do like magic, by the way. I like Blade versus vampires, cool. I like Werewolf by
Uh-huh.
Night, Doctor Strange.
Doctor
If
Strange.
he's in
Uh-huh.
his own corner, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, own it. But Not a big fan of
Like
the crossover
when it
point.
mixes with the mutants. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm like the mutants have a lot going. Like
they do have a lot going on. They
the
have
mutants
so
have
much going
everything,
on.
right? Time travel,
Uh-huh.
clones, space,
Yep.
multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have like all the whole family tree of mutants, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Uh, they
They
got a
got they
colony
got
on Mars.
they got Phoenix in space right now.
Right. It's like, do we need to add magic to it? But at the
Yeah.
same time, why not just add magic to it?
Right.
I
That's what I'm
guess.
wondering. I'm wondering if it's gonna be just her fighting these demons. Can we do spoilers here
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. I mean, we
yeah, I don't,
gotta, you know? And
yeah,
the way I
yeah.
see it is the goal is getting people interested in comics and like getting them to find a comic shop near you, go to comicshoplocator.com, support local comic shops. So if they spoil one issue, hopefully they pick up that issue and they pick up the next issue next month.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, so I was saying I'm hoping it's not just demons, like mutants versus demons. Like I think she's one of those characters where she can be a mutant, but she can also be dealing with just the mystical.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping she just dives into kind of like a mystical world, almost like something with in the realm of Doctor Strange. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
This issue kind of starts off with like some demons escaping limbo in a way or
Yeah,
some sort of
yeah.
thing and then attacking a small town, right?
Yeah, it looks like there was a seal, and I guess this family was in charge of protecting the seal. A demon was sealed, and it's I think like multiple seals, either three or five. Like I think it's five seals. Was it
And the
three?
last
Yeah,
seal is going to be broken, right?
yeah, for it, and so this was the first one, and she happened to pop there. And she ended up defending the seal, but they lost that first battle. What I liked is I like when, you know, people die. Like
Okay.
when it's realistic,
Yeah.
like, I think two people like caught an L
Yeah.
and at the end there, and I was like, okay, they're going for it. Yeah, so that I enjoyed.
I think
So
three. There's the girl in the beginning,
you're right.
then
I forgot
there's
about
the
her.
second girl, then there's like the grandma.
The grandma,
Yeah.
the grandma was surprised. She was like, okay. And
I,
or the girl that like popped her head. I was like, okay, no, they're going for it. So let's
yeah.
see.
I mean, it's definitely it's definitely demonic
Hmm.
and that's kind of like that's just the vibe that this at least this first issue is going for. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay, this is your
Let's
number
see.
one though. You really liked it
Yeah,
that much?
yeah. You know what? I was in between that and Absolute Batman, and that
Yeah.
they're so different. I felt with Absolute Batman, I enjoyed it,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like they dedicated a whole issue to trying to make us believe the stuff with the cape is possible. Like with the
Oh
mechanism
yeah,
behind the cape. And I was like, look, you didn't need to give me a full issue dedicated to making me believe this is like possible. Like I'm all in already,
yeah.
So that because of that, I bumped it down to like if there was my second, it would be there.
Okay.
I still enjoyed it, but yeah, that's kind of why I was like, it's a
For the
waste of
sake of
not.
conversation, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna say that Absolute Batman 3 is my pick of the week, so we can
Uh-huh.
talk about it because
Okay.
there is another book that could have taken my number one, and maybe they're tied, but I'm really digging Absolute Batman number. Did I say number three? I meant number
Three,
four.
but four. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm really digging Absolute Batman, and they're specific. Like this was like roughly a flashback issue, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like they're all doing like flashbacks right now. Absolute Superman also kind of like really leaned into the
Oh
flashbacks,
yeah.
but
Well, but
last
that was
week.
Absolute Superman 3. Like, I feel like Wonder Woman and Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Superman, have, like, been interspersing the flashbacks in between, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But then this one really hasn't touched on a proper flashback in a while, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess
Like,
so. Since,
I don't know. No, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, there have been flashbacks. So, I don't
but
know.
no,
Maybe I'm talking
but
out of my
did
ass.
but this one, I agree with you. The series was mostly a flash, like in the past.
Yeah.
Even like when they showed you kind of like the in between when he was building the suit and
Yeah.
building the equipment, that was still technically a flashback, even though it's more recent.
Yeah.
But so yeah, this issue, I'm sorry, was definitely more of a flashback issue for sure.
I think I liked this issue a lot.
Hmm.
It is because of by nature being mostly flashback. It's it's kind of disjointed in a way. Like issue 3 ends, and then you're like, oh, I need more story, but let's head back in time. But I really liked it because they're really showing in this issue what the difference between mainstream Prime Earth Batman is versus this one. And like we've talked about the absolute DC universe like on previous episodes. He's not the best at everything, and he doesn't want to be the best at everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's first and foremost, he's an engineer, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
And he's like, if I can think it, I can build it. So let me build something to make things work. But you go through a little bit of his backstory of like, there's that scene where you think he's a vampire.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious because
Yeah,
I thought of the animated movie with what was it called? Gods and Demons or something
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
where
Gods and Gods and Monsters, I think.
something like that, where I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh, who's this vampire?"
yeah.
But then it turns out he was pretending to be a vampire, and he was like, "You know what? This is not for me. Never mind. Scratch that." So I
And
thought that was
it's pointing out that like mainline Batman is very theatrical, right? And so in this, he was like, let's try being theatrical
Mhm.
and like put on face paint, have these fangs that'll have a neurotoxin that'll,
and
you know,
growl.
yeah. And it's like, he's like, nah, never mind. That's not
Yeah,
me. What I am going to
I'm
do is
good.
I'm going to get bigger. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
engineer these crazy wings and
Hmm.
walk on my cape. And like,
Uh-huh.
like he has that,
Yeah,
like every little
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, it was interesting. And
No,
like the
I enjoyed
backstory
it.
we got it. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. And the fact is they brought Joe Chill
Uh-huh.
into this origin story.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. And the fact that like young Bruce Wayne, like his message in court,
Yeah.
like telling him that he will always hate him. I was like, oh, this is solid.
But in that last scene,
Uh-huh. Then he see like he goes to visit him as an adult. I was
I
like,
don't
oh,
know what's
okay.
going on, but like I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's an
I'm
emotionally
excited.
heavy moment. That's an emotionally heavy moment. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
But Scott Snyder is amazing. Like Scott Snyder's writing, like I think he really understands Batman.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that what's cool about the absolute DC universe is like there are writers that want to that know the essence of a character, but they want to do some like fresh new twist on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
And in that case, like I don't blame the writer for wanting to do that. Just keep it in its own universe, right?
Right.
Which is what Scott Snyder is doing.
Hmm.
But like sometimes when you twist a character too much in the main universe, they become different,
It,
right?
it doesn't make sense, yeah.
Yeah. And so like Tom King is one of those like writers that like I'm okay with Tom King. I like his work if he can stay in his own continuity.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I don't
This is
know whether I want him affecting the main DC universe.
this might sound controversial, but that's how I feel about Grant Morrison.
Mm,
When I'm doing my older comics and I'm reading like older stories, whenever I pick up a Grant Morrison story, I'm kind of like, and I spend a lot of time in comic book stores talking to like older like OGs,
yeah.
and they all rave about Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
So for example, I picked up Grant Morrison's Green Lantern,
Mm,
and like he had like a one shot, and I was like,
yeah.
this is great, but it's a little different.
I haven't
It's
read
like
that one.
it's interesting, like kind of like All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
He kind of like does his own thing sometimes, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, all right, I get it.
There are writers that are essentially like, really good artists. They
Hmm.
they just don't like to color in the lines.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there are times when you need to color in the lines, right? You're
yeah.
given those lines, you color inside them. And I think that there are some really good writers out there that can take the lines and do
Hmm.
amazing work inside of it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's other people who like artists that are like, I see the lines,
But
but I'm
but
gonna go over here if I want
right,
to because
right,
I'm
right.
the writer.
I'm busting out of there.
Right. And it's like, who are you to tell me to color in the lines? And it's like, well,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
But respect the original material.
yeah,
Like yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I am okay with Grant Morrison, but their stuff is too heady sometimes. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just too like I don't want to have to read 24 issues and
Mm-hmm.
then get the twist and then go back and then like read the same 24 issues again in order to
Yeah.
understand everything. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
um little controversial hot take. Who's your favorite writer right now?
Um, if it's modern writers, I would say probably Scott Snyder.
Mm,
I loved his Batman New 52 run.
mm.
When he did the Court of Owls
Yeah.
and all this stuff. I loved that run. Um, Old school, I'm going through down a what's his name? Jeff Loeb
Okay.
rabbit hole right now, and
Yeah.
that's been enjoyable.
When Jeff Loeb is good, he's good.
So good. Yeah.
When he's not, when he writes the Ultimates 3,
Uh-huh.
have you read the Ultimates?
No, I haven't jumped into the Ultimate Universe yet. So,
That's the
um,
old Ultimate Universe, right? There's a
mhm.
new Ultimate Universe and there's an old one.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
he wrote Ultimates 3.
yeah,
It was the beginning of the end of the Marvel or the Ultimate Marvel Universe, and
yeah.
it just barely started. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
it was. I mean,
Yeah, he's coming back for Hush Part 2. That should be interesting with Jim Lee. So that should be interesting.
I respect Hush as a story, and
Uh-huh.
I think Hush is great for like first time readers,
Hmm.
but like I feel like I don't need to go back and reread Hush as a longtime reader. But
Yeah,
I understand that there are first time readers out there, and I do
yeah.
recommend Hush to those people.
Yeah, that was before I dove seriously into comic books. That used to be my favorite Batman comic book. And then I was like, oh, there's actually deeper, better stories out there. So
Yeah,
yeah, right there with you. But if I'm recommending someone to a new reader, that's usually one of the first ones I recommend as well.
I like when it comes to Batman and Jeff Loeb, I like
Mhm.
his Long Halloween.
Oh yeah, that's
You
that's
know,
that's my favorite comic book ever. Like
yeah,
Long Halloween, such a good story. I love the each chapter is a season thing. That was great. Um, just the mystery around the killer is just very good. You get to see Batman the detective, which I wish would see more of in the movies. That's one thing that I think they haven't really done well is show you that like the greatest detective side of
yeah.
him.
The
Um,
Batman gets close though. I
yeah,
love
he does.
I
Hmm.
will I will go to bat for the
I agree.
Batman.
I agree. No,
You know,
100%. I'm right there with you.
yeah. I want to shout out something I haven't shouted out publicly yet because I've been trying to work on it. The Keeg as a whole has an Amazon shop. If you go to amazon.com/shop/ the Keeg show, you can check out. I've been trying to make lists of different things that might be worth checking out to either longtime fans or new fans or whatnot and create comic lists and
Mm,
whatever. Now, I don't I don't. It doesn't mark up the prices for anyone, but if you're anyways going to buy, let's just say, a new Batman comic or like the Long Halloween or whatever, it's on the Batman comic list on that
mm. Nice.
shop. And if you're anyways going to buy it, I'm not forcing anyone to do that, and it's not a markup. If you're anyways going to buy it and anyways going to spend it on Amazon, if you go through that, the key gets some small percentage of it, and it's like
Might as well. Might as well if you're
might
gonna
as
get
well.
it anyways.
Yeah. And the work I'm putting in is, hey, I got you a Superman comic must read list of like Superman's best comics in my opinion. I got Batman one, I got a Supergirl one. So, you know, if anyone wants to
Well,
check it out, I put the link in the Twitch chat. So, um
nice.
there's some good Batman comics in there, including Batman the Knight. I don't know if you read Batman the Knight.
No, I haven't.
That's Chip Zdarsky's
Uh-huh.
Batman miniseries that he did before he jumped on to write Batman.
Oh, okay.
He wrote a miniseries called Batman the Knight, and it takes place before he becomes Batman. So he's the Dark Knight. He's the Knight, not
Uh-huh.
not like officially, but like it's just called that. But
Uh-huh.
basically, he's traveling the world training with different masters,
Okay. Okay.
and it's a
That sounds
12. I
interesting.
think it's a 12 issue book, and
Uh-huh.
so if you that's I think on the shop, the key
Okay.
shop. So
All right.
you
I
know,
might be going on Key Shop after
yeah,
this.
if you're anyways, I just try to compile what I can to be helpful. And
For
again,
sure.
it doesn't cost anyone any more than it would anyways cost you by going to Amazon. Here's Timothy
Yeah.
the Keegan. We get some
Yeah.
stuff.
Help.
I'm not pitching it to you. I'm pitching it to everybody out there. So
But
you
hey,
do what you
it worked though. It worked though.
want.
I'm getting it.
Thanks.
So that's a
Um,
good pitch.
thanks. You haven't read. You're not reading DC versus Vampires.
No, I'm not reading it. Talk to me. Is it good?
Okay, so this is a sequel series to DC
Uh-huh.
versus the first one, but DC versus Vampires World War V issue number 6 came out this week,
Uh-huh.
and the first series was DC versus Vampires, and it was 12 issues, and
Okay.
now I think this one is also 12 issues, so we're about halfway,
Uh-huh.
and I loved it, and I didn't
Okay.
think I was gonna love the original one because I'm like, vampires, whatever. It
Uh-huh.
seems like it's gonna be like Marvel Zombies.
Right.
It seems like you're gonna be DC'd, but like, which I like DC'd actually.
Mm-hmm.
But DC versus Vampires is so good. It is, the art is always amazing. Like the twists are amazing. So essentially, like a vampire outbreak breaks out.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Some heroes turn to vampires,
Okay.
and then some of them don't, and then some of them get killed before they turn to vampires, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
using the powers of the hero that turned to vampires, because like they're just the heroes but twisted.
Twisted. Okay.
So like a spoiler, like Hal Jordan in the first issue gets turned. And
Okay.
like he uses the ring to just kill people.
Nice.
You know?
So sounds like a better version of Blood Hunt.
Yeah, I mean I like Blood Hunt, but
You
like
like Blood Hunt? Okay.
I liked it. It was good.
Hmm.
But DC vs. Vampires is super, it's so good. There's a
Okay.
twist at the end of issue 6 of the first series that
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil. Um, there's a king of the vampires that they're like building up to, and then you
Okay.
find out whatever you find out in issue 6. But
Okay.
this is the sequel series. It's so good. It's just, yeah, it's so good. I can't
Okay.
recommend this series enough. This would have
Okay.
been
All
my
right.
number one pick.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna check it out. That
Yeah.
sounds good.
You get some like really fun stuff, and the art by Otto Schmidt is really good.
Okay.
Who
Yeah, and
writes it?
I like darker stuff too, so that sounds like right up my alley.
Is it Tinian? I can't tell who writes this, but it was on my screen. But anyway, yeah, it's really good. What's another book that stands out to you from this week?
Let's see. I actually enjoyed Aquaman a lot.
Did you?
Um, yeah, like I
I
was surprised. Like I was surprised. I was
I
like, yeah,
like Aquaman,
uh-huh,
but I thought I was gonna like this issue, but I
uh-huh.
didn't.
Oh, okay. What did you not like about it?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, like, it just seemed too basic for me.
Okay.
Tell me about it, because like it's a
I felt
new.
like I felt like it. So with him now having kind of like Mira's powers,
Mhm.
right? Like it's from the fallout from Absolute Power. Um, I've seen versions where he kind of had powers, but with the staff. Now it seems like he doesn't need the staff to do some magic. I was like, all right. Um, it seems like it's setting up for something interesting. I did. You said you didn't finish it, right? Or did you finish
I
it?
did finish this one.
Did you finish it? Okay. Yeah, like at the end with Atlantis disappearing and the dark side symbol there through the gate. Um I think what it is also, I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the big picture here
Mhm.
with kind of like dark side's death, like creating kind of like this ripple effect with the challengers of the unknown, with like the new gods, and this might connect to that as well. I think I'm also thinking the big picture. Maybe that's why I'm enjoying it.
Mhm.
I really like what they're doing there with kind of like um Darkseid's death, um, the fallout from Absolute Power and all the new metas. I think that's ultimately creating the ultimate Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
I like that overarching story, and this seems like it's gonna fall in there somewhere, and I think I'm enjoying that.
I do love. I've been raving around about the interconnectedness of the DC All In stuff. Like even the Titans
Mm-hmm.
in their like first issue back, they were supposed to stay in the satellite, but then they're like, nah, we're gonna do our own thing. Go to have an underground Titan's Tower. So like everything is referring back to this one point and this sort of new status quo, which is the Justice League is huge right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And like all these characters are guest starring in each other's books, which I really like. But this one, I'm hoping issue 2 is better.
Okay.
I just didn't like this issue. I don't know. It just was like I was going through it out of obligation, essentially. And I like Aquaman, but I just feel like I had to just get through this issue to be like, okay, I read it.
Yeah, it's definitely not gonna. It didn't have anything we've never seen before from Aquaman. You know, like he's a reluctant king, and there's all of the kind of like responsibilities of the throne that he's not super excited about. Um, I think I think it's the ending that got me excited. I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. All of Atlantis disappearing, and then the potential for him having the magical powers. All right, let's like Aquaman. I wouldn't mind him getting a little bit of an upgrade. I don't know how long he's gonna keep these powers. Because it seems like some people they're transferring the powers back. You know, the Atom series, the Justice League, the Atom Project seems like they're working on getting those powers to the right back to the right person.
Yeah.
In his case, it looks like he's okay keeping the powers, right?
Yeah.
So no, I wouldn't mind a bit of an upgrade for Aquaman. Let's see how it goes.
I don't like that it was Mira. It was her powers, and so she doesn't have them, and he has them instead. Like,
true.
I don't know, but okay. I also don't like that he's channeling water like Aqualad should be.
Yeah.
And he does make an appearance. Jackson does make an appearance in this.
Yeah, very briefly, yeah.
But like, it's kind of like you don't need 2 ice-powered people like hanging out. It's like you just need 1 on your team, right? It's kind of like that. It's like, what's Jackson gonna do?
Right. Well, they could do magic together.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't seen much of Jackson Hyde in a good amount of time.
Yeah, that's true.
We've seen Garth recently in Titans. The original Aqualad, but not so much of the new one. So actually, I don't think he goes by Aqualad anymore, right? He goes by Aquaman. Because there was the Aquaman, I think it was Aquaman miniseries.
Did he change his name?
I think they're both Aquaman now. I could be wrong. So
makes sense.
Sorry to Jackson Hyde out there. I forgot. Are you reading Amazing Spider-Man?
I am.
Number 65 came out this week, and I'm liking this story. This could have been my number 1 this week. Like, this one was really good. It was really sad.
Yeah, like Peter's going through it. Like, he's going through it. Like,
are you a Spider-Man fan?
Yeah, I'm a Spider-Man guy. I love Spider-Man.
I feel like most people, like I feel like DC fans are also Spider-Man fans and X-Men fans. Like, I feel like those two.
Yeah. Also, if you like comic books, you should like Spider-Man. Like, once in a while, I run into someone who doesn't like Spider-Man. I'm kind of like, hey, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm enjoying the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. It was very sad. Let me ask you a question. When the twins, when the girl, I forgot her name, I'm sorry. She's like, her test was to have him hold that sphere, and he would see everyone he loves death. At first I was like, wait, did the other guy kill him? But I guess he held the sphere the whole time.
Yeah. So for anyone who needs to know, the premise is that like, it's so weird. Doctor Doom is now Sorcerer Supreme. And because he's Sorcerer Supreme, he has the responsibilities of being Sorcerer Supreme. Doctor Strange used to be Sorcerer Supreme and used to, every year or whatever, defeat the scions of Cyttorak. I forget. I'm trying to look up how many scions there are. There's like 8 or something.
I think it's 8
deaths. 8 scions,
8,
right?
Yep.
And after every time you defeat a scion, you die, and thus defeating them. but Doctor Doom doesn't want to deal with that responsibility,
Yeah,
so
I
he's
thought
like,
that
all
was
right,
hilarious, by the way.
Spider-Man, this is your responsibility now. So
Uh-huh.
it's kind of magic based Spider-Man adventure stories, right?
Hmm.
And every time Spider-Man dies, he comes back to life, and that's just
Hmm.
that way it works. So yes, in this, the woman, whatever her name is, the sis
She had yeah, like her test was to have
Syra?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Syra.
Uh-huh.
So Syra and then her twin Sirius.
Uh-huh.
No, no, no. Sirius is that girl in the I'm looking through the wiki for this. Mm. Calyx. So Calyx and Syra are twins or something.
Mhm.
Um, and yes, so essentially at the end of or halfway through this, like Peter's challenge from Syra is to hold that orb that just makes him view the deaths of everybody on Earth. Essentially, it's
Right.
like starting with his closest people, and he just
Uh-huh.
views their death and sees how insignificant a human life is
Hmm.
to lose hope. And then the goal is
Yeah.
hold it until the orb doesn't have anything more in it.
Hmm.
But he does get killed at the same time, and essentially he wins that challenge by
Not letting go of the orb,
even at like he dies.
holding on
So
to
then
it.
that's good
Yeah.
as long as you die holding it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that part was a little unclear
Yeah,
because like the brother challenged him to a straight up fight. So technically if the brother killed him, wouldn't have he have won his? But I guess because he comes back, but then they kind of just cut to him being back. So
yeah,
it's like if he dies and he comes back in a moment, I was kind of like, oh, okay, so what happened there in terms of the challenge? You know what I mean?
yeah.
By the way, Doctor Strange is so messy. Like he seems to say he really set Peter up in this one.
It's
Like
not. Oh, you mean Doctor Doom did, not Doctor
Doctor,
Strange, right?
true, but like that deal with their father, like yeah, like we'll have a tournament every year, and then he tells himself he's just gonna get these things and come back to life so he can't lose this tournament. This is
Yeah,
like basically Mortal Kombat almost.
yeah.
Um, but I was like, Doctor Strange is messy, but
I think it's funny that what it because this happened once before when Doctor Strange died, like the death
hmm
of Doctor Strange, and then like Clea became Doctor or the Sorcerer Supreme,
hmm
and essentially they dealt with a plot line in that book being like, oh, he had a couple of tasks that kind of disappear when he
hmm
dies, so then people get let loose or whatever, and so
uh-huh,
it's like I feel like Doctor Strange needs to stop taking everything on himself and come
uh-huh,
up with like a team like of people close to him that
right,
know what's going on in case one
right.
of them dies, they can like a zone defense sort of situation.
Right, dude,
You
like you have people. Like you
like
have
Wong
people.
should be able to
Right.
so
Like brother Voodoo, let somebody else
yeah,
know. You know.
here's my hot take. In the MCU, I don't think Doctor Strange needs to exist because Wong is anyways better than him. Like
Ooh.
Wong is Sorcerer Supreme right now in the
Uh-huh.
MCU. We don't need Doctor Strange.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
We don't. And in the comics, when Doctor Strange died and Clea took over, I think we
Everything
were
was
fine.
fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, I think
Apparent.
Wong in the movies is better than Doctor Strange. Wong in the comics is not better than Doctor Strange. He has his own thing going.
He has his own thing. Yeah.
You know?
The next thing is it looks like Doctor Strange is gonna go to Asgard. He wants to become the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard since he lost the title on Earth. Like there's
Mm.
a new series. Like I looked at like a preview. It looks like he's gonna be in Asgard with Thor, and he's gonna become their Sorcerer Supreme. And I was like, all right, let's see where that goes. I guess. Like,
I like reading Doctor Strange,
mm-hmm.
but it takes a real good writer to make me care about him
Right,
because I
right.
don't care about him.
Yeah. And sometimes it kind of has to make sense. It's like there's a lot of people in Asgard that already do magic. Like, why would they not have a Sorcerer Supreme yet? And
Mm-hmm.
conveniently now that's where you go to become their Sorcerer Supreme. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're
It,
you're
it also confuses me because it's
yeah,
like, tell me what a sorcerer supreme is. Is it
right.
the best sorcerer, Or is it like a title where you have responsibilities? Like
Right.
you are now mayor of the town. You're
Right.
not a better person. You just have more responsibilities.
Yeah, you're kind of like, yeah. Yeah. And originally it was a title, but now they're making it seem like it's a title that comes with certain powers. You know what I
Mm,
mean? That's always not necessarily clear. You
mm.
know, like originally it was kind of like it's a title and you have a certain amount of authority in terms and responsibility. But now after what happened with Doom and at the end of Blood Hunt, it feels like it's a title, but also comes with certain powers.
I think it comes with certain access.
Hmm.
Like it's not powers. You still have to wield it, sure. But like
Hmm.
if you go to whatever dimension, they're going to be like, all right, you're Sorcerer Supreme. We'll let you in. You can do whatever you
Hmm.
want.
Yeah.
Then you gotta leave. Like, I feel like it comes with other things.
Mm. Okay.
Doom doesn't
All
want the
right.
responsibilities though.
Yeah, Doom. He just dumped it on Peter.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey man, I'm not trying to deal with this. Like previous guy, I don't know what this is about, but you got this. Here you
Yeah.
go." And gives him a little bit of some decent magical upgrades.
But the
And
fact
yeah,
is, like, you have to literally die and then be re-stitched back
yeah,
together
yeah. It's
into
gruesome.
life.
It's
Yeah.
painful. It looks like yeah, Peter's been through a lot. We've seen Peter go through so much over the years, but like he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like just coming back to life, like one organ at a time. That sounds like a process that not enjoyable.
It's funny that Phil Coulson is death.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought that was a nice cameo. I really enjoyed that.
he's
I was like,
been showing
oh,
up in this whole little
hmm,
series.
like in the mirror, and every person that's dying when he was holding the orb, it was Coulson. I thought that was nice. That was a
Yeah.
nice little. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, People who don't like Amazing Spider-Man because of Zeb Wells's run, I think it's
Hmm.
safe to say like hop on this run.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Also, I think this is a good run if you're newer to comic books. Yes, it's different because it's Spider-Man with magic powers, but it's a good jump in point for new readers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's another book that you really liked?
Let's see. What I really like.
You liked Uncanny X-Men #8?
I did. I thought the ending was a little disappointing.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't really like this one.
yeah. It's like they've been building up to this one with Xavier. We all know Xavier is gonna come out. I think they already announced X-Men Hunt. So I thought Xavier is gonna come out. They've been showing us this vault with some super powerful mutant for
Yeah,
like so many issues, and somehow that vault is still closed. Even on the cover, like they kind of show this
it looks it
creature.
looks like Juggernaut's head, but with Mr. Sinister's like cape, right?
Right. And then turns out they never show you. Like I was having a conversation with someone on TikTok where a friend slash follower, and he was telling me how now he feels like these covers are very clickbaity, and
Mm.
I 100% agree. I'm like, you look at the cover, um, also they kind of got into it, but they didn't really like fight the way we thought they were gonna fight. Like, like the Cyclops' team versus Rogue team, that
Yeah.
that throwdown never really happened. Like there was a moment in the previous issue from the regular X-Men series, but the way they advertised it, like these two teams were gonna like, like fight, it didn't really happen. And
Yeah.
I think that was a little bit of a letdown.
I kind of knew that it was going to be short, right? Because it was going to be like a 4-issue
Mm-hmm.
crossover, like a mini crossover. But
Mm-hmm.
like, so it's like, how much fighting can they
Mm-hmm.
do? But at the same time, like, I think people like they were kind of pitching it like it was going to be a civil war, right?
Yeah. Or kind of like remember X-Men Schism,
Yeah,
where really like a hard line was drawn between like Wolverine and Cyclops, like a very hard line.
yeah,
That's They were kind of advertising it that way, and ultimately it's not that much, they left Gray walking together,
yeah,
like so.
yeah. I also hate it when X-Men does this thing where they're like, "Oh, by the way, there are 4 new secret mutants and they're called this
Right.
word." And it's
Hmm.
like, so they introduced a new set of like super powerful mutants called the Avians. And it's
Yeah,
like,
they're all psychics. Yeah.
Why are they called the avians? That means birds. Like,
Yeah. Also, I
what?
didn't love the big psychic fight with Xavier and I forgot his name, where
Yeah.
Xavier like psychic uppercut cuts
Yeah.
him. And I was like, okay, all right. I was like, all right, and then that's happening in the air, and they're like just having conversations about. I'm like, all right, this is yeah. I didn't. It started well. It kind of fell a little flat for me at the end.
I, yeah, I feel like these X-Men titles, a lot of them are just kind of spinning their wheels right now because
Hmm.
they're probably waiting for the next Marvel crossover event.
Probably One World Under Doom. It feels kind
Yeah.
of that's kind of how I felt about a lot of the Avengers series. It felt like we're just waiting for One World Under Doom.
Yeah. I mean, DC does that too, where it's like they're just gearing up for absolute power, so they're just gonna like spin their wheels, just
Hmm.
kind of wait for that, and then
Hmm.
go get on with their like story. You
Yeah.
know. Um, did you like Wolverine #5?
So I did, which is actually I don't know how if this is controversial or not,
Uh-huh.
but I was considering dropping this. I actually literally made a whole
You
video
made a
about
video. I
how
saw that video. Yeah.
I was considering dropping this, but since you invited me on the show, I was like, all right, let me give this one more chance. This was much better.
Yeah.
I felt like the first four issues, like the word I kept using was inconsequential. I was kind of like, why is Wolverine just running around the forest with what's it called?
Wendigo.
The Wendigo,
Yeah.
like a kid who's cursed because he ate meat and it was a cur like I was like,
This
all
is a
right, I
long.
didn't
By the way, the Wendigo is a long time Hulk villain.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
but it's not a villain per se.
it's like a curse
It's a
and
curse. Yeah.
Wolverine has because I when I before in the video I did a little bit of research and
Yeah.
Wolverine has a lot of run-ins with him as well,
Yeah.
but I just didn't care. I was kind of like, okay, like in this whole this was better. I enjoyed this. This was much better.
By the way, there's a video game that deals with Wendigos because it's an
Yeah.
actual like indigenous thing in like not California, Canada. Like native tribes have that
Hmm.
like myth, and
Hmm.
basically it's if you consume human flesh in Canada, you
Okay.
become a monster,
Okay.
and it doesn't matter whether it's on purpose or not. That's just what happens, but it only happens in Canada,
In
and
Canada.
like Marvel loves Canada like setting
Oh
story because
yeah.
there's like their teams. They got
Uh-huh.
like Department H, they got
Oh yeah.
Wolverine and Deadpool and
Hmm.
whatever. And so there was like an X-Men storyline where like accidentally somebody fell into like a meat packing thing and
Hmm.
human pieces got into the meat,
Into the uh-huh.
right? And so people are just eating their like can of like pork and beans and
So they're
turning
all
into
turning.
Wendigo,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so
Oh,
what
Canada.
happens, I forget how it ends, but I just know that they couldn't cross the border
Hmm.
because they couldn't cross from Canada to
That's
America.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Like if they cross, would they just turn human or they would just stop at
I
the
think they
border?
stop. I think they
That's
like don't go any further.
that's
But there is a video
hilarious.
game.
That's a Canadian problem.
Yeah, it's like you keep those monsters over there. Um, it's called Until Dawn. It's a
Oh,
2015 interactive drama horror game called
wow.
Until Dawn, and it's literally about that.
That's hilarious.
Like you have to survive while the Wendigo hunts you.
That's hilarious. I didn't know it was a real like folklore type of.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah.
yeah. I like it when
Yeah.
they do that sort of thing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like how I found out more about Norse mythology from Thor the comic.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's like oh
Yeah.
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 No, so with this comic, it's funny because I think this ties into another version of Wolverine. But basically, adamantine is
Mm-hmm.
a Greek mythological metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a magical metal. So like I think what's happening in this comic is that somebody is turning adamantium into adamantine. And
Mm-hmm.
magically, because they keep calling it like the pretender or whatever, like the pretender
Yeah.
metal. So they're like, oh, adamantium is human made, thus it's fake. And
Like a
we're
in
like,
like a an impure version of
yeah,
it
it's
is
like
what it seems.
imposters, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so which means I think Wolverine's whole skeleton is turning into adamantine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which also is funny because there's a Exiles. Are you familiar with Exiles?
Mm-hmm.
So Exiles is like the multiversal mutant squad. So like
Okay.
before Marvel really got into the multiverse, they have What If, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but What If were like
Yeah.
one shot stories. Then they have Exiles, which is one mutant from different timelines put together on
Mm-hmm.
a team traveling from timeline to timeline. One
Oh,
of my
cool.
favorite series. If you haven't
Okay.
read it, it's so good.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a sequel. There's like a later volume of Exiles where there's a Wolverine who is dating Hercules, and
Mm-hmm.
he has gold claws because he has adamantine as his skeleton,
Ah.
which I
Okay.
thought was interesting. It's like, oh, this isn't the first time Wolverine
We've
has
seen the
had
gold.
adamantine. You know, we have a
Okay.
gay Wolverine in
Uh-huh.
another timeline, another universe that has
Ro-
adamantine.
Rocking some gold claws.
Yeah,
Nice.
you
That
know,
sounds. I'll read that. That sounds good.
I don't know what's gonna happen in this, but like
Yeah.
I like Nightcrawler showing up. That's all.
Yeah. That was cool. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was cool.
I like
Yeah.
that they're, I like that they're like good friends.
Mm-hmm. Now
Yeah,
that friendship has always been great.
yeah,
Like, and that's what I think that's one of the things I love about X-Men is to kind of like the enter the those little relationships in between the members. Even in Kenny when Rogue sees Magic and he's like, "I missed you too" or something like that. Those little things.
Wolverine and
Sorry,
Magic.
Wolverine. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Wolverine sees Magic. He's like, "I missed you too," and I'm like, I love that. Like those
yeah,
little connections. That's one of the reasons I've always loved X-Men. One of the many reasons, but like I think
yeah.
that's what makes it special.
I think it's what's cool about X Men. It's very similar to the Justice League
Hmm.
because the X Men are all friends, and
Hmm.
the X Men are more family. They're like very tight knit. Justice League are
Hmm.
like actual friends.
Really good friends.
The
Yeah.
Avengers, not friends. They're
This
they're
is work.
coworkers.
This is work.
Yeah, right.
This, I just work here.
Right. But the Justice League will get together with the Justice Society for like Thanksgiving every year.
Hmm.
And they'll do a
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, and like X-Men are playing like basketball, they're playing baseball, they're like,
Right, 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 right.
they're hooking
Hmm.
up. They're
Uh-huh.
like, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
there's so much going on with X-Men. They're
Uh-huh.
like their own thing. But like Justice League, it's Justice League's less hooking up, but
Uh-huh.
like
But they're good friends. They
they're
have
really good friends.
genuine friendships.
Right.
And
Right.
like for a long time, Batman, Superman, best friends, just
Yeah.
genuine friendships.
And like sure there are like Justice Leaguers that are like closer friends with some than the others, but like
Hmm.
they will show up at each other's weddings.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Avengers, they're just like, fine,
Yeah.
I guess I'll
Right, I guess.
go.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, for sure. I agree.
Yeah.
And
Um.
also that team rotates a lot more too. It feels like they all rotate, but the Avengers feels like it rotates so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Again,
it's work.
it's
It's
like who's
work.
working, at
Who's
that.
available?
Yeah, at that
Who's-
time. Okay, who's part of the squad?
Mhm,
Um. I feel like when an Avenger is not on the Avengers team, you
mhm.
can't find that. Like the Avengers can't like find them to hit them up. But like
Right,
if you're not on the X-Men squad, you're just as likely to pop in on that book
right,
just to say
right,
hi and leave.
right, right, right,
You
right. I
know.
agree. Yeah.
Same with
Well,
Justice League.
a lot of them live together.
Yeah.
A lot of them live together.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, Wolverine's room down this. Wolverine's room is over here. Let's go knock on his door and see if it's available.
I mean, on Krakoa, Wolverine had like it was Jean Grey's room in the middle, and then
Hmm.
Wolverine and Cyclops' room on either side of her.
Oh man, that
Whatever.
triangle always.
They're getting up to something. Is what
Uh-huh.
Um, did you read New Champions?
No.
Okay,
Talk
so
to me.
New Champions is like another teenage team for Marvel, and
Hmm.
they're based off of some like fresh new concepts that have been like barely touched on
Hmm.
with Marvel. Um, I'm not completely in love with the team
Hmm.
yet because there was the old Champions team, not the old one, but like there was one that had Miles, Kamala Khan, Nova. Like
Hmm.
they had like,
That's,
but all
that's
those
a good
characters
team.
pre-existed before they came together on the
Yeah,
Champions.
yeah, yeah. Which is what I prefer normally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this team, they're all like roughly from this one story that happened in the pages of Spider Woman,
Okay.
and they're kind of like quote unquote sidekicks to main heroes, but they're not actual sidekicks. They're like homage sidekicks.
Gotcha.
So you have
Gotcha.
characters like Cadet Marvel. You have characters like um, Moon. It's not Moon Knight. It's like Moon Kid or something. Like it's like Moon Knight,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So this issue started off like, okay, they needed to introduce it for like people who don't know these characters, which is pretty much
Mhm.
everybody. They don't know these
Right.
characters.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping they put together a solid squad at the end.
Mhm.
But I don't care about these characters right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, usually I think it works out better if you like have fleshed them out in their own series and then have them come together.
Yeah.
Like, like it's hard to build a full squad and introduce people to a new series at the same time.
Right.
That's a lot of building to do in just like a couple of series.
Yeah. And
So,
in the end, they hint at Spider Boy. They hint at a couple
yeah.
other characters that people may know,
Uh-huh.
but they just like have them appear on the last page, and it's like, well, this whole first issue, like, you wanted me to care really hard about like all these new characters. But then again, I guess I'll be honest. Young Avengers, the first Young Avengers team, did
Yeah,
this same thing.
that's true.
It
Yeah,
was
I
all new
remember it.
characters where they're like, so maybe I'm comparing it. The original Young Avengers was better then. I'll say that. That's my
Okay.
take. Young Avengers issue number 1 versus New Champions issue number 1. They're very similar, but Young Avengers did it better.
Okay. Yeah, no, I remember Young Adventures. I enjoyed.
Yeah. You also read the What If Galactus transformed Gambit, right?
Yeah. So I actually enjoyed this. I've always liked Gambit. I thought this is the softest I've ever seen Galactus. And like at the end there, he just lays like, all right, you're good to go. I was like, that's not really Galactus like, but okay.
I didn't read this one. So
oh.
I'm interested. The
Yeah.
costume looks sick though. But I feel like the costume was just designed for Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like
it's very for sure.
Yeah.
It's very video game friendly for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So the idea is Galactus, like I said, this is a much gentler Galactus. The collector has recreated a small version of the home world where Galactus is from before he turned into Galactus.
Yeah.
And so the Galactus makes Gambit his herald because Gambit's really good at stealing. So he's like, I want you to break into the collector's vault and steal this from me.
Okay.
So it was like he wanted it out of nostalgia from missing his home world, which I've never seen that side of Galactus before. Like, I've seen him as kind of like, eating worlds, just destroying everything.
Yeah.
Him being motivated by nostalgia was a little different.
Yeah.
But you get to see Gambit kind of just being sleek because it's like a big party at the what's his name? Sorry, the collector's house.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of like being Gambit, kind of like flirting his way through the staff, and I enjoyed it. It was as a one-off. I was like, okay, this is nice fun. And at the end, turns out the world was a fake world and there was no lives on there, and so Galactus is like, all right, you're free to go, and just lets him return to Earth.
Does he keep his powers or not?
He does keep his powers.
Oh.
Like he does keep his powers and he goes back to Earth. Like I said, this is a much gentler version of Galactus. I was a little surprised. I was like, all right, he just let him go. He was like, all right, cool. You helped me out. Go back to Earth now.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that's different, but enjoyable as a one-off,
I feel like these comics are just giving like, those power scalar sort of fans that are like, who would win in a fight, blah blah blah, or blah blah blah, and they're just they're now gonna start being like, there's Galactus Herald Gambit, and like it's just giving them being like, Gambit would beat Batman in a fight. Well, what about Galactus Herald? It's like, well, what about God Armor Batman? It's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. So many power-ups.
It's like, all right, fine, that's fine.
But no, the cover is fire. I think as a one-off, I was like, okay, I'll take it as a one-off. If this was like going to be a long-term thing, I don't know if you can work with this story, but as a one-off, I enjoyed it. It's always nice to see Gambit. Like this would have been and the time where Galactus makes him his herald, this is right before he joined the X-Men.
Oh.
So it's kind of like when he was still like a thief and still kind of like a criminal.
Mhm.
So he's like very comfortable stealing, you know. So he's like flirting his way through a party and like I enjoyed seeing that side of him.
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah.
Um, I think that's all the books that you read this week, right?
Let's
I got a
see.
couple more that I got to talk about before we get going, but
Yeah, go ahead. I'm curious to hear your takes on some of these other ones.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'll rush through these real quick. But like Transformers 16 came out this week.
Hmm.
This Transformers run is critically acclaimed, right? Daniel Warren Johnson doing it. The art is very like gritty and less
Uh-huh.
shiny than
Uh-huh.
you would think would be in a Transformers comic, but it works because the characters feel like they're alive, they're worn in.
Mhm.
Um, and there are deaths of these Autobots, and like things are different. It's a new continuity, right?
Yeah.
I only got halfway through, so I can't tell you exactly how the whole issue was, other than the series has been great and there's been a lot of variant covers. So people who are fans of the variant covers, like, might
Yeah.
be worth checking out.
The
It
guy
also
at
ties in with the GI Joe comics that are coming out from Image Comics,
mm,
because they're
nice.
all the Energon universe.
Connected. Yeah.
Yeah,
My guy at the comic book store, my main comic book store,
yeah.
he's been raving about this series forever. Like I told him that I'm jumping back into comic books. They have now kind of like the hardcover from previous issues.
Mm.
And he's been raving about this series and telling me I should check it out for months now. So
It might
like
be worth it.
yeah, because I've watched the anime back in the day
Yeah,
and kind of like the movies, obviously.
yeah,
But I've never thought about a Transformers comic book
yeah,
before. I've seen it on the shelf and I've heard a lot online. You keep hearing people talking about
yeah.
it, but I might need to jump into that.
This one and the GI Joe one. The GI Joe
Hmm.
one is only like 2 issues in, but
Hmm.
they're both really good comics. So
Okay. All
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're reading Ultimate Black Panther.
So
Is this the one you
I'm gonna
dropped?
No, no, no. So I'm gonna jump into the Ultimate
Okay.
Universe. I because I'm doing single issues and going back to some like old graphic novels and some like old series.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like I had to make a business decision. So the Ultimate Universe sounds very interesting, but I was just like, all right, I gotta like pick my battles here and
yeah.
not spend all my money. So,
Right now, Ultimate Black Panther is sort of spinning its wheels right now. Not much is
mm,
getting done in the single issues. It starts like issue 1 starts off really strong, but now we're at
mhm,
issue 12 and it's like, I don't know. What do I want from this? I think it ends with something big happening in issue 12.
uh-huh.
So like cool, 13 will be cool, but like I don't know. I feel like
So
more should have happened.
so let me ask you,
Yeah.
side question here.
Yeah.
I went to the comic book store yesterday and my best friend was with me. He got Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna start the Ultimate Universe, would you start with Spider-Man or would you start with the Ultimates?
It depends. Do you want better stories or do you want to know how that universe runs?
Well, both.
Okay. So
But probably better stories.
Ultimate Spider-Man is the best comic from Ultimate Marvel.
Okay.
Followed by the Ultimates now. But
The
the
Ultimates
Ultimate
now.
starts off really slow
Okay.
and uninteresting. But I stuck with it and it gets better as it goes. Ultimate
Okay.
X-Men starts really weird and you're like, what am I reading? Like it's like 3 issues in and I'm like, where are the X-Men?
Uh-huh.
There's no X-Men in it until like
Mm,
issue 5 in a way. So like
mhm,
what is going on here? And then it kind of picks up. So and then Ultimate Black Panther's dipped down a little bit. So
okay.
technically reading order is the miniseries Ultimate Invasion.
Mhm.
Then you go into one of the 4 titles that you want.
Gotcha.
But Ultimate Spider-Man
Okay.
is the best one.
Yeah, yeah, that's what everyone's been saying.
Yeah. I'll rush through the next couple ones real quick because of time. NYX number 7, not much
Mhm.
happens in this. I love the characters, but I feel like the writers are losing the plot. And
Mhm.
I don't know what the point of this title is other than like, let's just be young, sexy mutants hanging
And
out.
New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like that's kind of just the plot. It's like we're young, sexy mutants. Krakoa isn't around anymore. What are we
Hmm.
gonna do? I don't know, man. Let's just hang out. It's like,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right, fine. Batman and Robin 17. I'm not so interested in this Memento storyline. It's kind of weird,
yeah.
but it's okay. We'll see. There's like a Memento murderer or something like that. I don't know. It's
Mm.
weird. I can't sum it up. I just read it and I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much everything that I read. I wish I read the What If Mickey and Friends became the Fantastic Four because it looks super cool.
There
But
was a Batman series that I saw that I considered. I just didn't pick up the first one. It was Batman Dark Patterns.
Dark
Is that what
Patterns,
it's called?
yeah, I haven't read that
Um,
one.
Everyone's been raving about it though.
Yeah,
Apparently, yeah, online everyone's been raving about it to the point where I was like, I may have to go try to get my hands on the first issue. And have you read the first issue
no,
or no?
I
Like,
don't. I love Batman,
mhm,
but I like Batman better after he is developed into like he has his Bat Squad, like he has his things.
the Bat
So
family and everything.
the
Yeah.
early days of Batman don't interest me that much, and like solo Batman doesn't interest me that much.
Oh, okay.
Eh.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's so many Batman miniseries
There's
all the
so many.
time.
There's so many. Like, you got Detective Comics, which I'm currently reading. Tom Taylor's doing that now,
Yeah,
and that's been okay.
yeah,
Obviously the main Batman one, and yeah, that's why I didn't pick it up. I was like, another Batman.
yeah.
And I'm the
Um,
Batman guy. I was like, all right, come on, man, another Batman.
Also, Batman comics or like Batman miniseries are often like, who is the blanket murderer? who is who is this
Uh-huh.
new
Uh-huh.
villain on the scene? His name is Hard Drive, and it's like okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
guess
How
you
much
know.
time? How much time we got? I don't want to. I was gonna ask. I was gonna talk about something else, but I don't want to take off too much time.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, we got to wrap things up. What were you gonna ask? Just
Oh,
so.
okay. I was gonna say one thing that frustrates me with Batman is that they always go back to his dad and like some mistake his dad made.
Mm,
That's my main gripe with the Detective Comics.
mm.
Apparently there's a serial killer now, but like that serial killer is connected to someone his dad did something to him in
Oh,
the
that he
past.
could. His dad could have cheated on his mom. I don't. I think
Yeah.
they're just hinting at it. I think they're just like teasing us with it, and I don't think it's actually a real thing. Kind of
Yeah.
like I don't know if you read Superman Lost, but Superman Lost was teasing that like Superman cheated on Lois
Oh,
when
that's
he was away in space, but he didn't.
he did
Like,
it. Yeah.
and I think that they just try to do that because they're just trying to cause drama, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Leave Thomas Wayne alone.
yeah,
Leave.
I do love the fact that Martha Wayne is alive and well in Absolute Batman.
Same, but I'm worried that might be good. I wonder how long that's gonna last. That makes me a little
I
worried for
need her
him.
to live. I need her to live. It's too
But
sad otherwise. I think
I
that's the
mean,
whole point because then he becomes closer to regular Batman.
yeah, but the whole point of the absolute universe is their lives are supposed to be much harder than kind of like the main series.
Yeah,
So that's gonna be interesting. You
their
might
lives are
experience.
harder and there's more of a struggle, but their souls are the same, right?
Hmm.
Like it's that
Hmm.
they're still heroes,
At
and
their core, they're the same person.
yeah,
Hmm.
even though life has dealt them differently, and good guys don't always win in this
Yeah,
universe.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, Jakey, I wanna thank you so much for coming on the show, taking time out of your day, coming here on a Thursday night to talk about comics with me. Before we get going, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Thank you for having me, man. This was fun. This was a genuinely fun
Yeah,
experience. Jecky Comics on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube coming up as well. My platform is to create kind of like a roadmap for new readers that want to jump into comic books. As I learn things, I share with people. So I'm reviewing current series, but also going back to old series like that are have been award winning just to give kind of like a roadmap for there's a lot of people out there that want to jump into comic books but are not sure where to start. So that's the whole point of my page. So please follow TikTok, Instagram, Jakey Comics. Simple.
awesome, awesome. For anyone who's out there and wants to follow me personally, you can find me on Instagram at This Is Dimithri. But if you want to know more about the Keeg Comic Talk, all the other shows that we're doing, like this weekend, we're doing the Keeg Talks Creature Commandos because Creature Commandos just ended today, and
Hmm.
so we're talking about it
Hmm.
this weekend about the whole season and kind of everything the DC universe has planned. We're doing that. So if you want to find out more about that, follow us on social media. TikTok and Instagram are our two biggest ones right now, at The Keeg Show. But we're at The Keeg Show / The Keeg Show pretty much wherever you can find The Keeg, right? So, Blue Sky and whatnot. We also have a Patreon. It's The Keeg Show pretty much everywhere. It doesn't matter whether you're watching us on Twitch or YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching us. Twitch.tv / The Keeg Show or YouTube.com / The Keeg Show. Or thank you for listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music. I think we're all over the place there. So wherever you guys are at, let me know where you guys are, because I would love to know what platforms you guys are using to listen to this show. Other than that, go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, one that you connect with, one that you vibe with. Find a good shop, and then support your local comic shops,
Absolutely. Gotta support the small businesses.
Yeah. And then also public libraries, because they got comics too, and they need support as well. So support your local public libraries. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Jecky, for coming on this. Thank you, everybody out there, for watching.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks. Let us know, like, follow, comment, subscribe, write a review, do your thing, and then definitely follow Jecky at Jecky Comics, JECKY Comics, right?
Yep, perfect. Right. You got it.
Definitely follow Jecky. That's how I found you. I followed your content. You do good stuff. So
thank you. Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks for coming on. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of January 9th, 2025. Take care, everybody. Jecky, say bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.